Hello and welcome to afternoon tea at 3 o'clock on June the 4th. I do hope that you're all well, and it's really good to have you along for today. How's my day been? Well, the week's been kind of strange. Monday, Tuesday, I was plagued with PC computer problems as I tried to put the parish magazine, The Anchor, for June together. And I thought, oh yes, everything's sorted out. I'm going to get on with it today and everything will be fine. So when I switched the machine on this morning, it kind of crashed, and then I got it going, and then my, what's it called, Dropbox wasn't there. So I reinstalled it and it wouldn't work, and then it froze, and then, anyway, a couple of hours later, it was all going well, and I've managed to put together the anchor, and it's 4 days late now, but that's okay because the first service isn't until next Sunday, so we will have it out for Sunday. Well, it'll be out this afternoon. As soon as I've finished here, I'll be setting up the MailChimp account and get on with it. Jeannie and Karen, good to see you. High tea, yes. High tea at the corral, yes. Actually, I'm drinking hot chocolate, of all things. It's not one of those Swiss Miss things. It does have Swiss Miss in it, but it's got, what is it, baking cocoa, because I hate how sweet these things are. So, and I want more chocolate. So I put some baking cocoa in, some milk and hot water, and stir it like crazy, and I think it tastes good. Hi, Mike. So I hope everyone's well. As I said, I've done the anchor now, so it will be with you sometime this afternoon. As a kind of heads up, I think this is going to be the pattern for however long I do these. That Tuesday will be a morning coffee at 10 a.m. and Thursdays will be the afternoon tea at 3. Good thing for doing this is the morning coffee, I can sort of set up what's happened since Sunday and let you know what's going on. And then on the Thursday, I'm hoping that Father Lewis will be with me so we can actually do some of the things that people have asked. And what is it we're going to be doing next Thursday? I know we've not done anything on it yet. We just chatted a bit, which is may well what it might be. I have no idea yet how we're going to do this, but we're going to cover what somebody asked in is either a message or a text, and it was lots are well, not lots, some Christians are saying that this COVID-19 is a curse from God. You know, God has cursed us because of XYZ. And so we're going to discuss that. So that'll be a week today at 3 p.m. Hopefully with Father Lewis. And prior to that, next Tuesday at 10 a.m. for the coffee morning. So good afternoon to you all. Well, where are we? Well, we're looking at an increase in COVID-19 cases, and actually a spike, according to some people. And this is still within the 14-day incubation period where, because of all the openings of various venues and things, those who actually do the science and all the research and stuff said we'd have to wait at least 14 days to see the results of what all this opening up of gyms and hairdressers and etc. And we're now trying to see it. I believe yesterday was quite a big spike compared with a few days of going down maybe, or just going flat. As myself and the vestry have said, we are watching these things very closely. But we're still moving forward to trying to make the church open for more people to attend. Excuse me. And if I didn't mention it last week, Tuesday, I can mention it now. because you'll read it in the anchor. And that is, we've worked out that we can have 44 people in the church, all of them at the safe 6-foot distance. And we're going to make it so that we don't just use the one entrance, the front door. We'll be doing it from the north and the south sides. And what we're trying to do is, it's not like we're trying to create two distinct congregations within the one church. It's more like we're trying to ensure that we minimize the possibility of contamination. And if, God forbid, that did happen, because we're allocating assigned seating, so to speak, if anyone does become infected, and then those who are doing the contact tracing come along, we can say, this is where that person sat, and these are the people who were near them. And then they can take that information and know that it is absolutely accurate. So we're trying to think beyond what we do in the services. The one thing I haven't thought through yet is to do with singing. I'm still looking into what the research says about that. It has been mentioned that when you sing, because you're projecting more, than the not the spittle, you know what I mean, the not even the vapor, but the tiny little whatever. Somebody write that in for me, please, and send me a message. What's the word I'm searching for? Whatever it is, as somebody writes it out for me, it can go up to 15 feet. And when you think that we're socially separated by 6 feet, that means you could, if you were singing with gusto, affect more than 2 people. And so we wouldn't want to do that. So I've been trying to find out what happens if people sing wearing a mask. Droplets. Thank you, Vern. Yes, the droplets that one sort of booms. Aerosols is another good one. Wow. Yes, I think I need to go on to something more than hot chocolate, because this is not. Maybe it's making me sleepy. You can tell me afterwards. Am I wired or am I dozy? No, don't answer that one. Aerosols, droplets, yes. So imagine, one, would you be able to sing in a mask, with a mask on? Would you want to? I mean, because it does kind of slow down your ability to breathe. You are a bit more conscious of it when you are breathing. So would that be doable? If it weren't doable, then the bishop's recommendation is that we either just have a couple of assigned singers, so to speak, and everyone hum along, or we don't do it at all. And I just cannot, for the life of me, imagine doing a Eucharist that doesn't have hymns in. Even if we reduce the number of verses, which I'm really kind of against, because I've got my grandfather breathing down my neck, saying those verses were written for a reason and they form the whole prose of what's being said. You ruin the theology behind it if you start deciding you're going to take this verse out and that verse out. Anyway, so that's something we have to look at. And I would hope the congregation itself could come to some mind as to what they want to do. Now, this is where weak singers come in. And it has to be said, we don't have that many strong singers in St. Clement's. So it may be that people are quite happy in just kind of following along with a mask on and, using their normal, less than powerful diaphragmatic utterances while they're singing. So they wouldn't be causing a 15-foot projection of aerosols / droplets, but they would just be keeping the mask on and singing within the congregation, but mostly to themselves. As Kit points out, the deal is when we sneeze, yes, and they can go much further than 15 feet. Yes. Will you be checking attendees' temperatures? That's a very good question. I would think we can. We'll have to make sure. See, one of the problems I've read with those is that unless you're getting a super duper, surgical quality one, these you can buy from, I don't mean from the dollar store or anything like that, but those you can get from Amazon, unless you're buying a really good one. They have a massive battery drain, and it only takes a small drain of the battery to get really outrageously inaccurate readings. So what would be worse? Using it and having inaccurate readings of people who actually may have a temperature. So we'll have to see. That's never been mentioned. I don't think it's even been mentioned by the bishop. I've not seen it in writing anyway. I know that when I've been to places, apart from shopping, I have been checked. Once was with one of those that doesn't actually touch you, and another one is one that you roll across your forehead. And then I saw the guy spending ages trying to clean it, which could be another problem. But yeah, thanks, Jeannie, for that. That's well worth looking into to see what we can do. Because, like I say, it's if the machine isn't accurate, it's pretty much moot doing the thing. So it's all kind of frustrating. We still have to do some prep for the church. We've got to remove all the booklets, all the Bibles, all the hymnals, all the prayer books, anything in the pews. I'm already doing, well, there's a few of us already doing a clean down before the service with those wipes, the Lysol wipes. One of them are rather nice, and I kind of like it. It doesn't say anything on the box, but it's really nicely lemony. But we'll be using it so much that I'm worrying whether Dave will come in one day and see that all the varnish, or not the stain, the oil has come off the top of the pews and everything that we touch, and find himself with a lot more work than he may have originally imagined. But if it keeps us safe, that's what we need to do, and we will do that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, Bill. Bill says these thermometers are inherently inaccurate. Yeah, and what's the lower upper limit? And I wouldn't be comfortable administering one of those temperature checks. I am not a medical person in any way, shape, or form, so we'd have to have people who have licenses to do that, just because they would know how to use those kind of thermometers, or any thermometer. I can barely use one in the oven. When I want to know what the temperature is and make sure that the oven's accurate, I've put one in, and then I have not been able to read it, so I've taken it out, and of course by the time it's out, it's like, oh, this oven is cold. Anyhow, again, thank you for that question. It is something that we really do need to think about. And if there's anybody on the vestry, or as Paula, you can keep it in mind, Paula, that so when we do have discussions with the vestry, that question comes up, because you know what kind of an airhead I can be sometimes. And again, no messages to respond to what I've just said. So there we are. So what else has happened? Well, sadly, the protests go on. There has been some more news regarding arrests of the police involved, which I think is a very good thing. And thankfully, things have gone quiet. I've written about this in the Anchor, and because I think it's important that the Anchor isn't just a journal of the church to the church. It's a journal that has context, and that context is the history of where we live and the country in which we live and the world in which we live as well. And it would be like, could you imagine having a parish magazine that on the month after 9/11 happened didn't mention it? We're in the world even if we're not of it, and we have to pay attention to all these things because they do have a real effect on who we are as Christians and how we should be behaving. So you'll be able to read about that. So I really don't want to talk about that today. If anyone has a subject that they would like to mention now, I'll give you a few seconds to type it in and let me look at it while I take a drink of this soporific chocolate. But I do like it. No questions? Okay. Well, I want to talk about seminaries. Places where clergy go to get trained. There are many different places, and they all correspond. Oh, he who must be obeyed. I got it for the dog. He just completely ignores it. Oh, well. So, yes, that was a message regarding what's on my T-shirt today. So, seminaries. Most denominations have some kind of training. And within the Anglican Church, there are several different versions throughout the various parts of the Anglican Communion. But for the most part, and historically, it's always been a training towards ordination that's included living in, basically, that you go away and you train. And depending on the course you're required to do, and in England, at least your age, you would do either 2 or 3 years. And I did 2 because I had a degree in theology and religious studies, which obviously meant I didn't need to do a lot of the foundational work to do with theology. So I got a year off. Now, there's a lot of talk in quite a few denominations, and I've seen some discussions within the Episcopal Church to move away from having residentiary training for ordinands, and that it would move towards more online and or diocesan or sort of kind of group places where you may meet now and again. Now, I can see why some of that might happen, but I think it's a massive mistake to do it. And I think it's a massive mistake for quite a number of reasons. The first one is that you need to learn the foundations of your faith in an academic way. And I mean from the ground up. You cannot assume that Christians, know much, because the truth is we don't. Unless you do get a grounding in theology and in Bible studies, you can go into a parish being clueless as to what your faith is. What's the current state of biblical scholarship? What types are of theology are around, and what is it you as a person who's going to be ministering and administering sacraments? What is it you actually believe? So seminaries are a place to train in those basics and to learn. They are also a place of challenge in many, many different ways. And this is important too. To be able to have to spend 2 or 3 years of your life doing something completely alien in an alien world can be a real struggle for some people. And to be pulled out of everything you've been used to is very good training for when you get dropped into a parish, because you appear out of nowhere into an absolutely new situation, and you don't have much time to sort of establish yourself in terms of, well, what is it? You have to hit the ground running. Because you're supposed to know all these things. Yes, you do get a honeymoon period when everybody loves you because you're so nice and whatever, your sermons are great because they haven't gotten used to them, blah, 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 all the other things. But most of the time you're unfavorably compared with your predecessor. But that's okay, because when you go, if you go, your successor will be unfavorably compared with you. So it all works out nicely in the end. But to be put into a situation where you have to live with people 2 or 3 years, and these will be people, I can tell you from personal experience, some of them you will not get on with, and yet you have to rub along with them, is, I think, and I believe, absolutely essential as part of the formative experience of what it means to go into parish ministry. And I would think that most of the people I know who've experienced this would agree with, having to still be in communion with people with whom you have very little in common is an important thing. Another part for me, and this is more to do with the Episcopal situation, is that the church itself has to take responsibility of those who feel a calling to ministry. And what I mean by that is that they should own it. In the Church of England, I had to go through a million hoops and committees and do this, that, and the other. And then I went to a selection conference that was 3 days where I was interviewed several times. I was being observed about how I interacted with groups. Did I take part? If I did I say anything meaningful? Did I get along with people? All these other things and factors that are way beyond what I imagine were taken into account before the church, through a bishop, said, we believe that this person has been called by God. And then the Church of England owned it by sending me off to college and paying for it. Now, was it a really cushy number? Well, no, because as a single person, the money we were on then to help us survive was absolutely pitiful. But then we weren't there to sort of buy Rolls Royce and go off on cruises. We were there to train to be servants of God in God's church. But they did put the money where their mouth is. And we realized that every second of every minute of every day, somebody, the principal or the bishop, could have said at any time, even up to the point of us being ordained, we've changed our mind. We do not think that you are a suitable candidate for ordination. And they would have lost all that money. But the church was willing to do it. The church was willing to invest in us, to get us to be at a certain level, maybe not at our best, because some of us were quite resistive, so that when we went in to serve the church, we had enough knowledge and enough training to be able to do it in a way that would help the church rather than hinder it. Now, this is where I kind of don't like where the Episcopal Church is, because at least in this diocese, and I don't know whether it's the same in all dioceses, you've got to pay your own way. And so if part of the complaint or the argument against going to seminary and doing a sort of long-term residential period there is that it's expensive, well, do you want clergy on the cheap? Does the church want clergy on the cheap? And if part of that, the kind of antithesis of that reasoning is that, well, all these people are paying for it anyway themselves, then you're kind of slanting, you're biasing the people who may well have a true calling, but look at how much it may cost them and can't afford it. So what do you want to do? Do you want to give them good training Do you want to put your money where your mouth is? Which opens it up to people who may have a real calling from God and do fantastic work in parishes, and work for the Lord. Or you're only going to get those who can afford it, which limits the pool, and then you can get a kind of stereotypical seminarian, etc., etc. I don't know what the church is playing at here, and I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, why I'm against the type of training which is done online and stuff? It's always because there's no one to kick back at you. The most formative times that I had weren't the lectures or the seminaries the seminars I went to. And believe me, seminars can be absolutely brutal, because it's not just you who's had to sort of research a certain area of study as proposed by your professor. Then you turn up with your fellow students and then you say blah, 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 blah. Every step of the way, somebody can jump in and say, well, actually, that's not true because such and such said. And wow, it is a horrible, horrible experience. I don't know who anyone enjoys seminars, not in the strictest sense of them. But this is important because you gain knowledge. You learn skills in listening as well. And to do these things online, and it just loses that connection. To just turn up now and again at a say you do a week somewhere, or you do classes once a week, you're still not getting that connection and depth of relationship with somebody you may not get on with. And I think all these things together make for an experience and a rationale for residentiary seminal theological training as being a really formative and important part of who we would want or what we would want in our priests. So, online brain surgery. That could happen, though. That's a physical thing. I do know that there are 3D things, 3D experiences in virtual reality with the headphones, where you actually use the tools and they have tactile responses. So you can actually, somehow they make you feel the cutting through of the flesh, or whatever. They're getting incredibly complicated, and yes, people practice heart surgery or quite a lot of surgeries virtually before they actually get in there. It's kind of frightening, really. I really wouldn't want my surgeon says, well, I've done this online. It'd be like, I've done this on a video game, so let me loose. You'll be okay, don't worry. But, if you're dealing with people who've been hurt, you don't have to know every experience they've undergone to empathize with them. But you do have to have been around people who have made you think, that you've had to react to. They've made you angry. That have completely dismissed what you believe. That have had experiences that you've never heard of. Again, this all part of I believe it's all part of the training. And it's all part of the formative experience. Now, I suppose when you think about it, because they're the apostles, they never went to college, But then again, they had Jesus as a teacher for 3 years. They lived apart with him. Probably went back fishing now and again, but so I think it's really important. Do you want your surgeon from Trump University? Let me think about that one. I'll get back to you. Wow. So, seminaries. Have you ever thought about them? Have you ever wondered what goes on in them? Now, everything I've said has been on a kind of academic level and relational level, really. But there's also the spiritual level. There is great, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not power. To develop one's spiritual life in a manner that is consistent is important for clergy. Where I went, and I think most places do the same thing, it was you had to go to morning prayer. Immediately was followed by mass, and then you had breakfast and your day began. And it was pretty early on, like 7 o'clock in the morning, you went for morning prayer. Evening prayer was, if I remember rightly, it was either 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Then after that, you had dinner. This didn't happen on a Saturday, which was like a free day, but you were still expected to say your prayers. And of course, on Sunday, the times shifted somewhat. And this gets you into a pattern of prayer, which you would not otherwise wouldn't get. It gets you meeting with people as a group. It makes you take part in worship because everyone had an opportunity to spend a week doing morning prayer and a week doing evening prayer. You had to help out at the masses. You got involved, and you believe it or not, there are a lot of people who it was the first time they'd ever done it. They'd never said a prayer out loud in any context. They may have done the readings, but they were pretty terrible readers as well, and we had to have lessons of how to read the Bible. I think it's one of those things that we should have continual lessons on as well. A bit like tennis coaches still train world-class tennis players. You can always learn, even if you think you're good at it. But this pattern of prayer becomes really, really important in parish life, because if you've got nothing set up before you enter parish life, you're never going to set it up. Because the demands of parish life is that I've got my work here, and then all of a sudden there's a phone call, and everything you'd planned just goes out the window. The 2 points that tie your day together are prayer, morning prayer and evening prayer. And without those, you're just floundering. Did you have a... Oh, thanks, Bill. Did you have a Trinity Sunday class? I did an exam in, what was it called? I did 2 exams, Doctrine of God, in which the Doctrine of the Trinity were huge questions. There was also a question on Unitarianism as well within that, which kind of fascinated me because I knew some Unitarians back home. They're kind of a rare breed. Full-blown Unitarians are now kind of rare breed because they've become kind of unification universalists, and so the theology in air quotes of Unitarianism itself has kind of evaporated even more. So the answer to that is yes, I did, Bill. I did have not Trinity Sunday classes, but I did have classes in the theology of the Trinity, which is probably why I'm more scared of it, because I know that when I open my mouth, I put my foot in it, and I'm sure God just has a good laugh. There he is again. Every time he says, God is like, he then says, but no, he isn't, which is true. Why I took EFM. I find most Christians have not read the entire Bible and certainly have not attempted to reconcile the teachings. What's EFM, Bill? EFM. I'm sure when you spell it out, I'm going to go, yeah, of course. But yeah. I think everybody does there, Bill. I still struggle with the man-made church versus the God-inspired education for ministry. Thanks. Yes, we all do. Yeah, we all realize we have feet of clay. We all realize there's certain teachings and disciplines and things that we deem important, which are either not in the Bible or completely unscriptural. And yet a lot of the stuff that we're supposed to do, we just completely and blindly ignore it. Was it ever thus? And this is the cause of many great schism in the church, and the splitting down of one denomination into many factions of that one denomination, because we're really good at looking at the speck in somebody else's eye and not the full forest in our own. We will put all the emphasis of our faith and belief on one word in the Bible or one tenet of doctrinal belief to the exclusion of everything else. And we'd be willing to die on that bridge. We'll be willing to stress some aspect of theology which really distorts the Bible itself to the exclusion of all else. I mean, I'm thinking of, say, well, it's not the rubbish that is the rapture. This premillennial blah 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 blah. It's just garbage. It really is. But a lot of Christians, they buy into the whole thing, and they have to wrap all the rest of their biblical scriptural exegesis based upon that, even though they're having to twist and turn a million scriptures to do it. And they make the book of Revelation, the prophet Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, say things it doesn't say. And they claim to know stuff that nobody knows, because even the best biblical scholars who spent the whole of their careers looking at these things don't know it. And then there's things like, the atonement. There are theories of the atonement, but some denominations, they live and die on one particular one, and that is the penal substitution, that God needed satisfying. It's a very Old Testament idea, but even then, it's very hard to justify. Has it been believed by the church? Kind of, a little bit. We can hear it in St. Augustine. We can hear it in other things from the early church. But it wasn't the only thing that they believed about the atonement. Oh, what happened? Hold on a sec. For some reason, my camera went off. Let's see if it comes back. Nope. Well, hopefully you'll see me. Well, you'll hear me. I'm going to find out what's gone wrong with my camera. In the meantime, I'm going to finish. What time is it? It's 3:38. So I've done 40 minutes almost. If I can get back on without any problems within the next 5 minutes, I will do. Yes, I'm sure, Bill. It is. Yeah. Well, at least there's no lightning hit me yet. But if I can't get back on in the next 5 minutes, stay safe and God bless you all. Hopefully I'll see you online on Sunday. If not, I will see you Tuesday when I fix the camera. In any case, I'll let you know what went wrong. So take care and bye-bye for now.